Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another recommendations video. This one is small town romances. Oh, something that is so close to my heart. A few of my friends I think actually just made this rec video too. I already had this one planned, but I will link my friends or put them down below, people who've recently done this video. I haven't watched theirs just because I already have my list set and I didn't want to see theirs and then like change my mind, because once I have a video set, I kind of like to stick with it. But I will link theirs. Maybe we cross over in some places, maybe we don't. That's totally fine. But we're going to dive into this. I'm very excited. I love small town yet spicy romances, and these are all some. There is one of the series that is particularly like lower steam, and I'll let you know about it. But otherwise, most of these are all like, they're all pretty good. For a lot of these, I actually have like series that they're from, because that generally happens with small town. And then there's a couple that I've only read like one in the series, so I'm only going to talk about the one, but there are obviously more. So let's dive in. Let's actually start with the book that made me want to make this video. I've also made another video that this book fits into recently, which was Low Angst. But it definitely fits in small town as well. And that's going to be Revs to the Max by Melanie Moreland. Sorry, I also have Melanie Harlow on this list. Spoiler alert. This is the Reynolds Restoration series, which is actually currently like in, like being written, but there's 3 of them out. And I do kind of recommend you read these ones in order, just because they very heavily like rely on the book before them. And what I love about a small town romance, and there's another series that I'm going to talk about with this, is I love how they can build off of each other. Because when Rev to the Max begins, it really is Max Reynolds like against the world, or he feels that way. That's not how everyone else sees it, but it's how he feels. And throughout this book and throughout the series, he builds a family around him, like it's found family, and also comes to realize members of the town who are on his side and who will help him. And he also gives that back to other people in other books. So this book is also a pretty big age gap. Our heroine really needs a job, and she ends up hearing about the position Max is offering at his garage. This isn't a motorcycle romance, he's a mechanic and a restoration specialist. I don't know what to say. So that's why he's on my motorcycle looking so smexy here. And he has had some heartbreak in his life, and he's trying to like keep himself separated. He really only has like one friend that he talks with, but he does his business and moves along. But he needs some help because his business is in some trouble, again, after said issues that he had. And so he wants to hire someone who can help in his home, and he will offer them like room and board, as well as in his business, who can help with like the technical side of things and like the billing and stuff. And so Charlie, who actually had worked in her father's garage, has these skills. She's in a tough position. So she ends up getting this job, and he thinks that she's a man. And so when this beautiful hot woman shows up, he wants nothing to do with her because he doesn't want to fall for anyone. But they actually have a one-night stand before they know who each other is. And so then he really doesn't want anything to do with her because he knows the sparks that he's feeling for this lady. But it works out. It's fantastic. And like I said, this small town ends up like, when there is trouble that comes, this small town ends up enveloping them, and it's amazing. Then, okay, this is kind of weird because I don't actually have the book that I'm recommending yet. I bought a different one in the series, but I want to show you what the series looks like. So this series that I'm recommending is Mccullough Mountain by Lydia Michaels, and then also the Jasper Falls series by Lydia Michaels. So this series, the Mccullough Mountain, starts with Almost Priest is the first book in the series. And then the one that I've read is called Beautiful Distractions, which was a plus-size heroine. She moves to this small town and she falls for Finn, who in the beginning, he's in kind of a like toxic relationship with a woman. And when he breaks up, he realizes how much Mallory means to him, and it's really great. But like the Mcculloughs, they're this big Irish family. It's a logging town, like their lumberjack operation like really kind of keeps the town afloat. And and he's kind of like related to everyone in the town. One book that I'm very excited to read in this series is Broken Man. This is a gay romance within the series, and I've read a menage done by Lydia Michaels, but I haven't read a gay romance before, so I'm very excited to read this one. But her books, this series was probably like a 2.5 to a 3 on the spice scale for the ones I've read so far. But after there's 6 books in Mccullough Mountain, or 7, I think there's 6. And then Jasper Falls series is currently ongoing. And now I've read all the books in that series up to Side Squeeze, which I'm about to read. I have an audiobook for that one. And these kind of like continue the series. There was a couple Mcculloughs who like weren't married yet, so we have those. And then there's some other families in Jasper Falls that get involved in this as well, which I really love. So in total, Lydia Michaels, this world has 12 going on 13 books, because there is a 7th one scheduled, and she just keeps going, and I just love them. They're everything I love about a small town, you know. And a lot of times it's like an outsider coming into the town, and then they fall for someone within the town, or someone who's been ostracized by the town finding their love, you know, being reawakened. So I really like that. So the first one in Jasper Falls is called Wake My Heart. And this one was this woman who was widowed, and she was friends with some of the Mcculloughs in high school, but like she was with her husband since she was like 16 years old, and he died very young, you know. And so she's this young widow who's just like barely alive. And one of the Mcculloughs ends up moving in next door, because he's like moving out of his parents' house, but he doesn't move that far. But he moves into the home next to hers, and she very much wants to keep her walls up. She just wants to live in her grief and not have to deal with anything, and he doesn't want to let her. And this is another, like a lot of the books in the series, they become friends first, and this one was just, it was so beautiful. Now the Jasper Falls series, I would say this spice level is between like a 1.5 to a 2. They're not more about the heat, they're much more emotional. They're still very romantic, but they're very much closer to like a Hallmark level, just a little bit spicier. Like we get on page sex, but usually like one full scene and more like, and then we had a bunch of sex, you know, that kind of stuff. But I love the series. Then we have Not a Hero by Cherise Sinclair. This is a series I went gaga for at the end of May. The series is The Son of the Survivalist. This is in Alaska, small town. Oh, I love this book so much. I know the covers are not great, but this is about 4 adopted brothers. They were the sons of a survivalist, and he's recently died, and he left them all with a mission. And the mission is to revive this town called Rescue. And they each have a role to play. One of them becomes the police chief. One of them is a nurse practitioner, and he's like the only like health professional in the town. One of them is a bar owner, and one of them is a very scarred hero who, during the series, this 4th brother, like, he's not there for the first 2 books, but he comes back later on. And there is a religious cult on the like outskirts of town that causes like problems throughout the series. And these boys, like, they're trying to rescue this town, and in the beginning they don't really know why their adoptive father wanted them to do this, especially because he had been a recluse all of his life, so they don't understand why he wants them to do that. But throughout this series, and even, you know, by the end of this first one, because the different women that fall for these men, they are like outsiders who have different reasons for being in the town. One of them is like hiding from an assassin. One of them is there to rescue her friend. One of them is a female police officer who starts working with the police chief. But through the series, we see them go from very much standing on their own to standing with the town. And again, this is a series, like, you very much need to read this series like in order from beginning to end. The audiobooks were amazing. This story was so powerful. And again, like, please don't let the covers stop you from these. It's fantastic. And also, like, Cherise Sinclair is very well known for her like BDSM series. These books don't have any of that in there. So if you don't like BDSM, you don't have to read that. There's no BDSM in these books. They're just fantastic. Then I have a standalone for you, Parks and Provocation by Juliet Cross. Technically, this is a part of the Valley Hero series, but each book can stand alone. It's part of Smarty Pants Romance. This book was put out early this year by Juliet Cross, one of my favorite authors and friend. And this is a, like, they were frenemies in high school. I mean, they were kind of enemies, but for like a misunderstanding. And now it's like years later, our heroine has a podcast about bad first dates, or like rating first dates. And the hero, in the beginning, he kind of like rescues her by helping her unlock her car. And he's a firefighter in this town. And he like demands that she like go on a date with him in exchange. And she's like, oh, perfect, I'll use this for my podcast. But then he's like, well, I want more than just one date. And turns out he's been pining for her for quite a while. So there's that. Next, I have 2 series to talk about again, all by the same author. All of them, again, they kind of blend into each other. With these ones, you could read either series first if you wanted. And you could read these books out of order if you wanted as well. But again, generally when you're reading a small town series, you'll kind of read them all the way through. That's just how it goes. So there is the Miles Family and the Bailey Brothers by Claire Kingsley, who I will talk about all the time, I promise you. So it starts with Broken Miles. This one is a second chance romance. This family owns like a vineyard and like an event place, and the mother of the family, she's recently discovered that her husband had cheated on them, and I think it's the oldest son, he was married and lived in a different like city, and he gets asked to come home, and he finds out all about this drama that's happening. His ex-wife, who I think her name is Zoe, they'd only been together for like a short time. It didn't work out. They got divorced. I believe there was a trigger warning for like lost child is part of that drama. She actually is an event planner and like still works with the family because like they were her family and like they love her. They actually love her more than they really love their brother at this point in their lives. And when they're in close proximity with him being back at the vineyard, sparks kind of fly here. He only wants to be there for a short amount of time. He wants to help his family figure out whatever problems the dad had caused, and then he wants to get out of there, and turns out it's not that simple. Then the series that comes after this, because the sister of the Miles family, her book is the first book in the Bailey series. Well, the first 2 books actually. Because she is engaged to one of the Bailey brothers. But the Bailey brother book that I'm going to hold up, because it's the first one that I read and the one that I love the most, and that is Unraveling Him. This one is, again, it's book 3 in the series, and this was the first one I had read. I was asked to be part of a live show with Smart Women Read Romance, and so I read this like all in one sitting so that I could be on the live show. And this book has a hero named Evan, and the reason why I read Revs to the max is because someone told me that Max reminded them of Evan. So it comes full circle. But Evan owns a garage and he restores classic cars, and our heroine Fiona, she has some problems and she needs to get her car fixed, and so she offers to help Evan out if he will let her use his garage. He's not too interested in that, but his dog loves her, so he's gonna have to deal with her. I love all the audiobooks in this. Claire got very highly rated narrators to do this series, and yeah, I loved the Miles family and the Bailey brothers so much. Highly recommend. There's about 11 books between both series, so it'll keep you busy. Then I finally get around to mention Melanie Harlow. The first book by her I ever read was Irresistible, and I loved it. It was when I was in my age gap phase, and this one is Franny, who is, I think, early 20s, and she's been a part-time nanny for Mac, and Mac has 3 daughters, and he starts to realize how freaking gorgeous Franny is, and he starts to have feelings for her. He's only 10 years older than her, but he feels like that is just so much. He's a retired Marine, he works for her family business, and he just feels like he's taking advantage of her when one night when she was babysitting, she has to stay there because there's a storm. She's not able to like drive home, and they have a one-night stand, and he immediately is like, what have I done? And Franny's like, you know, there's no one really keeping us from being together. It's really his own things. Melanie Harlow does a wonderful job of having small town romance, or like contemporary romance, that is like really chill but very sexy. That's what I was looking for. Like, they're very like sweet contemporaries, but things get spicy. So there's 5 books in the original series, 3 books in the extended level of the series, which are about kids from this series, and she also has tons of other books that take place around Cloverleaf Farms. Like, there is the Only Love trilogy, or the One and Only, and then she also has the 4 books in, I can't remember what that series is called, but like all of them take place in small towns. This is just the first one that I wanted to recommend because I love it. Then I have one that, this is a part of a series, I know that, but I've only read this one so far, and this one is technically like a small town romance. I don't know about the other ones in the series because I haven't read them yet. I plan to. The Air He Breathes by Brittany C. Cherry. This one is about these 2 people that they've both lost people that they love, and they end up connecting in a very unexpected way, and their attraction for each other like shouldn't happen, but they can't help themselves. And I don't know, I just really love this book. But Brittany C. Cherry, she puts you through it, and this is the only book of hers I've read so far. Even though I want to read more in the Element series, I for sure want to read The Silent Waters. I know how much everyone loves that, so I definitely want to get to it. But yeah, this one does. It is a small town that was touched by tragedy, and it's very intense. And then the same, another one that is very like emotional but takes place in a small town with a lot of secrets, is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And this has a hero who is mute, and a heroine who starts wanting to connect with him and is really surprised by a lot of the things that she finds out. And this is another one that everyone adores this book, and I was definitely late to the party with reading it, but I did really enjoy it. And it was only earlier this month that I discovered that this book was actually part of like a 17 book series that Mia did. Not 17, 9 or 10, because it was supposed to be about all the zodiac, and I don't know which one this one fits into, but like I read Dane's Storm, and that was part of this too. They were all standalones, but did not know that. So anyway, well, there you go. There are some small town romance series for you. There's a lot of books total that are involved in that, so I hope that you find some that you want to read. I'd love to hear some of your favorite small town books. I'm sure there's more that I didn't get on this list that I have read, just because there's so many. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it to the end, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel. I put up rec videos and other videos 4 times a week, so I'm definitely a good channel to follow if you'd like lots of recommendations. Thank you so much for watching, my friends, and I'll see you next time.